What's going on, guys? Pegasus from the Wise Guys. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you sub, make sure you hit the bell. I wanted to talk specifically today. Shout out to Game Cafe. You know, I got their shirt on. I wanted to talk specifically today about something that's been on my mind for a while, about deck overload. So a lot of people that I've been talking to on a routine basis, whether that be at locals, whether that be online with friends on Dueling Book, whether that be teammates in our team chat, I've been really observing the game and what's going on. Basically, guys, we have 5 top decks. I'm not specifically making this a top 5 meta decks. I'm just kind of mentioning it because that gets oversaturated. You've already seen that 100 times. And you probably heard somebody's opinion, whether it be Simo, whoever. You've already heard that opinion 100 times. I think that very quickly, I think the Dragon Link is the best deck, clear cut, and it's not even that close. I think Eldritch is very, very good. I think that Infernoble is also really, really good. Dogmatic is really, really good. And then Dino. I think those are the top 5 decks. Until something bumps Dino, I don't think Dino is going to slide out of the top 5 for a good period of time. And I don't think anything coming out is really going to be that tremendous, except for the Tri-Brigade stuff might. But you just never know. I'm not worried about Datascape. No disrespect. If you like that deck, seems interesting, but it's just not that good. Anyway, I wanted to talk specifically about each and every one of these types of decks that we like to play. So with those top 5, I noticed that they were all engines. I think everybody's kind of noticed that, but in case you have been under a rock or something, the top 5 decks are all engines. Dragon Link can be mixed in and out of decks. The quick launch stuff can be mixed in and out of decks. You've seen Tim on the channel with Buster Blader, the Buster Blader deck profiles that you've seen. He's playing the Dragon Link stuff, you know, the quick launches to get the extra monsters on the field, to be able to create LP plays in an emergency teleport type of way using quick launch in that form. I think that Infernoble is an engine slowly turning into an engine because everybody's realized that the warrior that you have to add off of rolling isn't actually mandatory, so you resolve it as much as possible, therefore allowing you to Charlemagne somebody with a smoke grenade in the end phase. You saw the deck profile, I mean the video, so you already know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you watched that video. Go back and watch it if you haven't. I think that some of the other ones, I think Overraptor has always been a card that can be in other decks to make an engine type of feeling going on, but Dino is pretty much the only deck that's really its own deck because the other decks are abusing the Infernoble stuff. And Infernoble, as in general, is being used as an engine now, where it was just its own deck when it first came out. That's the evolution of how Yu-Gi-Oh! Usually goes anyway, which is why they used to hit Shaddolls back in the day, because they don't like engines, but when they're making the money, I don't think they really care. I think Dogmatic and Eldritch literally are engines as well. More so if you like to play control decks and you like playing Eldritch, you're going to try to find other control decks that he can mix in very, very well. Yeah, we got an Eldritch Cyframe deck profile coming very, very soon, and it's actually pretty dope. And it works very, very well, so make sure you look out for that. And then Dogmatica was created as an engine. I don't think I'm reinventing the wheel or telling you anything that you don't know. The trap card literally can be played by itself, and it is a pretty solid card. I would at least say if you can mix some kind of card to go along with it, and it works well, you're going to enjoy it. The problem becomes, how do you know what in the world that you want to play with all of these engines running around? It's different than the past than when, you know, it was Cosmo, Monarch, Pepe. That format, you played Pepe, you played Monarch, you played Cosmo. In another format, you played Tellers, you played Infernoids, you played Necros, you played BA. And there wasn't too much of a mix. There was, because Shaddolls could carry a few decks on and off like that. But again, it wasn't something that was super duper necessary to do. You could just play the decks as they were. You didn't need to try to mix everything. Now we're in a climate where we have to mix a whole lot of stuff, and it's hard to kind of get your bearings when there's a lot of engines running around and there's not a whole lot of chokehold 1-deck formats or 3-deck formats. This is a 5-deck format in my opinion. That's just me. So my thing becomes, how do I pick a deck? How do I pick a deck out of thin air and start to deal with it? How do I know what I want to build before I even go spin the card? I used to notice when I returned to the game, I returned back in 2014, and I noticed that people spent a lot of money and then realized they hated a deck. I know that's happened everywhere. Like this video if that's happened somewhere around you, where somebody may have a deck and then 2 weeks later they sold it. We all know somebody like that. No disrespect, but we all know somebody like that. like this video. Make sure you comment down in the comments if you know somebody like that. But even if it's you, it's been me before. I spent a lot of money on SYLVANs, and then I picked it up, I played it, and I hated SYLVANs. It was a deck like that. A lot of times when you're trying to find a new deck, when you're trying to not be overloaded, shout out the name of the video, when you're trying to not be overloaded, you need to find out specifically what decks you usually like to play. That's how I go about it. I'm just recommending something that I do. When a deck is a combo deck, so we'll talk about combo first. When you're playing a combo deck, and there's 3 different types of decks, I think aggro, combo, control. We'll touch on that in a second. When you play a combo deck though, if it's tier 0, I'm gonna play it. I usually stick towards control or aggro, unless the combo deck is just so unfair. I think it's stupid, before I even get into this, I think it's stupid to only play one type of deck. You have to be able to be versatile and be able to play a lot of these decks in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms, which is, if you're that type of player that likes to adjust and likes to experiment a lot, then this is the type of format that you're going to enjoy. I like one deck formats where you know what the best deck is and you can just adjust to it because it's very predictable, and a lot of people are playing it, so you can have an easy time in a world where COVID doesn't exist. You know, it is what it is with that. So it's easy if you're a combo player and you feel like Dragon Link is tier 0. It's pretty close. I would say tier 0, but I say it's 0.5 at least. You want to play Inferno or Dragon Link. Let's just be honest. If you like playing control, you're going to play Eldritch. Like I said, you're going to play a deck like Eldritch. You're going to play a deck like Numeron, even though Numeron isn't good at all. We've all kind of come to realize that. No disrespect, Zexel. My bad, homie. You know, give me some dap. But anyway, slightly before these combo decks took over, Eldritch was winning, and this is the control portion. I think if you have a control deck, as long as you know what usual choke points are, what hand traps work well, what other engines are going to help you to facilitate how you want to play the game and lock the game down, you're probably doing well with a deck like Eldritch right now. Eldritch is one of the best control decks ever printed, in my personal opinion. I think Sky Striker was probably the best, and it's kind of weird to see Eldritch right after that, but Sanguine and all those cards, they're just really, really good cards, and it's a really, really good deck, and you can mix it with a whole lot of stuff. And if you can afford the $130 price tag from the Eldritch, I think it's at $130, correct me if I'm wrong, you're doing well, and you're pretty much going to pick a deck that you want to know and knock somebody completely out with. And Eldritch is definitely one of those decks that can control you to that point. Which leaves me with aggro. I think aggro is a deck like Dino. It can be an OTK deck. It can be a combo deck. Dino is very, very versatile. But I think Team Sam's dominance over that online remote duel thing, I think that pretty much showed that it can also just be a flat-out aggro deck, or just flat-out run your opponent over and be an OTK type of deck. And that's what it's really boiled down to being. So if you like a deck to just run your opponent over, or you like a deck to be able to put out a boss monster they can't really deal with, which is what aggro really means, then you're going to like a deck like Dino. The monkey wrench comes in when you start mixing that with some of the rogue decks, which I'll touch on in the next video. I appreciate you for tuning into this video. This was like my top 5 and how you go about picking a deck within that top 5. And we're also going to do this with rogue decks, which would take a hell of a lot longer. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'm out. YG baby.